Welcome to video 9 in our series. Is communication with God truly possible? And if you haven't heard the previous 8 videos, it may be tough to kind of jump in here and understand my points. It might be good for you to start with video 1. If you find this topic interesting, you might want to start from video 1 and work your way through everything to see where it leads you and see what challenges, how it challenges your thinking or your ideas. You may hear Christians argue against those who say it is enough to be a good person and to love your neighbor. No, that's not enough, they say. For one, no one is good. And secondly, we cannot earn our way into heaven by our good deeds. Only by the grace of God can any of us enter heaven. I don't think any person deep down truly believes he or she is without blemish and will appear looking crystal clear before God when they come to meet Him. I think every person, despite what religion they hold on to, hopes that God will have grace on them in the day of judgment. I think every person hopes that God will have mercy on them and will overlook their wrongs. We have all done wrong. This much we all have in common. Some have done more wrong than others, some vastly more. Some have done many more works of righteousness than others. We all hope that in the end justice will be done, that evildoers will be punished for their evil, and righteous people will be rewarded for their righteous deeds. Unless, of course, you're an evil person. We hope that wrongs will be made right. I don't know the measure by which God will mete out justice, but I do have the feeling that not all people will be held accountable in the manner in which we expect them to be held accountable. Call it a hunch, call it intuition, but for whatever reason, I can't get over the feeling that people will be held accountable not by what their perception and understanding of the identity of God is, but rather by their understanding of His character and by how well they are able to imitate that character. Whether they call it God, Allah, Mother Earth, the Goddess, Jehovah, Jesus, or whatever, if they worship a Creator they believe in their heart to be loving, caring, and gracious to all of its created beings, and they spend their lives pursuing love, care, and graciousness toward all their fellow creatures, I don't see how God can hold that against them. There are those who insist that intent and sincerity doesn't matter so much as being correct in what you believe. I think that's a Western way of looking at things, and I believe it to be highly reductionistic. The heart of the matter is what lies inside of a man or a woman. In spite of everything I've said here, there is probably a great likelihood that I will continue sending up prayers to God, in spite of the fact that I have yet to receive any definitive answers. Call it blind hope, call it irrational fantasy. When something has been part of your mental thought processes all of your life, it becomes nearly impossible to entirely do away with it. What I'd like is a tangible answer from God in a form that I can see and hear and touch with real substance. The mind is simply too malleable an entity, too susceptible to wishful thinking and fantasy reality construction to trust it as a medium for God's specific instructions for your life. It's not that I don't believe in God. As certain as I am of my own existence, that is how certain I am that I was created by some intelligent being outside of myself. A being that is responsible for the existence of all other beings, whether intelligent or not. A being that brought all matter, space, and time into existence. Such a being must have powers beyond comprehension. Why that being has chosen to remain such a mystery to us, particularly to me, remains one of my deepest questions. Why that being did not save me from a decade of delusion by simply telling me in an unmistakable way, Chris, you are not a prophet. These thoughts come from within your own mind, and I did not send them to you. Live your life and go after your dreams and stop living in a fantasy world. Why he didn't say that? Tell me that, communicate that to me. I don't know. All it would have taken was one real encounter with an angel or a distinct voice that could have clarified my position with God. But But since no such encounter came, in spite of my pleading with God for days on end for clarification on this issue, it seems only logical for me to assume that others who claim God has spoken to them are as equally deluded as I was. Only their ideas may be more socially acceptable because their behaviors are not as erratic as mine were, and their speech was more subtle. Because of this, they are not seen as religious kooks or fanatics, as I must have surely been seen, but instead are viewed within the faith as being spokesmen for God, people who can be trusted to speak God's word to others. In a practical sense, they are right, for it is much easier to benefit from the speech of a calm, rational person than an out-of-control, obviously irrational person. Furthermore, few of these God speakers would claim God directly told them, preach a sermon about such and such. They couch it in terms such as, God's been leading me to, or God has prompted me to. This is a convenient way of speaking which gives artificial import to our ideas, giving them the stamp of divine approval. Tell them I'll call him back. I hope I don't sound like I'm cynical at the world. I really have nothing against pastors and teachers of different faiths. It's just that I have to be on guard against the idea that God can send an idea my way. That notion can lead me into a tailspin if I take it literally. I think I have pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover for the moment. I trust God is there, but I really have lost my trust that He's in charge of things down here, influencing people, guiding circumstances. There's too much death and destruction all around me for me to believe that God is orchestrating this whole mess. I hope God does something to make me change my mind. But I've been burned too many times by trusting my mind to discern the thoughts and intents of God. I'll wait for a personal visitation before I'm able to make a conclusive statement on the matter. Then God can tell me directly what the truth is, and He will relieve me from straining my already strained brain on the matter. In the meantime, I'll continue trying to live by the golden rule as best as I can. The rule that applies to every person in every religion. The rule I think Jesus put best. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Peace. Yes, there is a chance I may reevaluate everything here in light of new evidence. But at this point, I highly doubt it. So that concludes the paper that I have written, why I am considering giving up communicating with God. I hope you found it challenging, perhaps insightful. Maybe it bugged you. Maybe there were some points that I made that you did not agree with. So I invite any responses that you have, if you have concerns, questions, if you're angry, if you enjoyed it, if there's something that helped you see things in a new way, feel free to respond on any of my videos, and I'll try and stay up to date with them and catch your feedback. So I have a lot of other things that I've written, including things that I've written while I was under the influence of the idea that God was communicating ideas directly to my mind. I did believe that I was a prophet of God, and I have some papers that I have written that I'm considering maybe putting up on YouTube to show the extent to which I was out of my mind. But I'm going to end here, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day.